If you're considering purchasing a co-op. Joining us this morning with some advice is associate broker for Prudential Douglas Elliman, Darius Solomon. Darius, good to see you again.
Good morning.
Yeah, there's been a lot of building of condominiums in recent years, but still co-ops make up the bulk of the market, right?
It is the bulk of the New York City market, and especially Manhattan.
And what's been fueling the market, you say, are people moving in, immigrants moving in, or new people to New York City, so they still are a little fuzzy on this distinction. So why don't we go over it again? Co-op versus condo.
Definitely, and most people still are aware of the complete differences, even if you've been here for a while. But essentially, with a condominium, which is similar to most of the rest of the United States, it's buying real property. If you're looking from a financial standpoint, it's typically about 10% down. And then on top of that, from an investment tool standpoint, it's much more flexible. You can easily sublet, use it as an investment tool. Now, with co-ops, you're moving to a different story. You're actually buying shares of a corporation, per se, of a private corporation.
And Darius, you see we have the screen up here. Tell us what this example
of. Here we're really looking at the average one-bedroom from the third quarter results, the average one-bedroom co-op apartment in New York City, which is about $610,000.
Right.
And if we were calculating out the numbers to look at what you need to afford a co-op in New York City, you have to look at we're using an average of 20% in this case.
Right, which is a lot of them require, at least 20%. Right?
And that's the main thing you have to be prepared for, is financially you have to meet certain criteria to be able to purchase a cooperative. And since in this case you can get a better price on a co-op versus a condo without a doubt. You're comparing about $11.71 a square foot for a condominium versus about $800-900 on co-ops. So again, you have to be prepared to have certain financial capabilities to be able to purchase a co-op.
And you hear this phrase debt-to-income ratio.
Debt-to-income is extremely important. Now, there are some averages, although every co-op's a slightly different flavor. Every co-op has a slightly different amount, and the average being you have to look at 25% or better debt-to-income. And if we were using the example of the $600,000 purchase, there's a simple way to calculate what your debt-to-income is. Here we used, with $600,000, you're talking about $3,044 a month in a mortgage. And we use an example of $1,000 maintenance on a monthly basis.
Where are those numbers? Hold on, I'm confused.
If you, in this case, if you take your maintenance and mortgage and add them together, it'll give you annual amount of $48,500.
Okay.
Now, the way to calculate your debt to income in this scenario is to multiply that number by 100, and then take your annual household income and divide that into that number. In this case, it gave an amount of 24.5% debt to income. So, important step number one is figuring out what your debt to income is for your purchase. Now, co-ops have other requirements as well, and remember, we're just using averages here. Some will be stiffer, some will be a little bit more lenient. Post-purchase, after you've made the purchase, most co-ops require that you have some liquid assets. In this case, we're using an average of about 2 years of maintenance and mortgage. So on this $600,000 purchase, you'd be looking that you should have about $90,000 to $100,000 in account, in assets. It could be stocks, it could be cash, to be able to make the board feel like you're a safe.
Right. That's after the purchase.
After the purchase.
All right. You'll probably have to go over that debt-to-income ratio again with your broker as well. But what are other things you should consider? Many people don't realize, if they're in the city, the stringent rules that co-ops have, and the right to refuse.
Well, you have to be very cautious. And when you're looking at a co-op, you might meet the criteria, but just keep in mind, nothing is guaranteed. And there's some points. So be prepared to understand the building requirements. Speak with your broker, or if you're looking on your own, speak with the owner. With co-ops, there are fairly lengthy board packages. Be prepared to release all your financial information. Understand the time frames, about 60 to 90 days from an acceptance to a closing date. Approval isn't guaranteed in any case, so always keep your mind of what's going on out there. And if you are a little tight on the financial requirements, some buildings will allow guarantors. And another important step is, if your debt to income is a little tight, you might consider putting a little bit more cash down to lower your monthly costs. And so there are ways to work within that.
Okay. All right. Some important distinctions there between co-ops and condos. Thank you, Darius.
Always a pleasure.
Try to sort through it for us. For more information about buying a co-op, just check our website, WNBC.com. Up next,